Should I restart from the very beginning then?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right. So, well, I would like to welcome everyone once again. So let's give it a second try. So perhaps I will just say a few words about Accountancy Europe to kick this off. So for those of you who are not so familiar with our organization, so Accountancy Europe is an umbrella organization uniting 49 professional accountancy institutes from 35 countries that represents approximately 1 million qualified accountants, auditors, and advisors across Europe, which translates professional accountants' daily experience and expertise across Europe to inform the European policy debate. And today we will have 4 of those professionals joining us to talk about CSRD transposition in their countries. So before I move to the key changes that corporate sustainability reporting directive brings, I would like just to note that we're using Slido for questions, so feel free to ask your questions at any time during the webinar. There should be QR code to Slido and on your screen, and the link is also on the video description. So why we are still talking about CSRD, and I think it's important to remind ourselves that today we are facing climate catastrophe, and tackling climate and environmental challenges is this generation's defining task. Of course, reporting by itself will not resolve a crisis. However, this is an important part of a puzzle. So we all know that the European Union set an ambitious goal to become a climate neutral continent by 2050, and the European Green Deal adopted in 2019 sets the blueprint for this transformational change. This transition, of course, will require fundamental change in policies and business practices, but also substantial investments. And for that reason, markets need meaningful, comprehensive, and reliable information on sustainability impacts to make sustainable decisions. And this is where the European Corporate Sustainability Directive comes in. This is a critical piece of legislation bringing sustainability reporting to the same footing as financial reporting, and which is fundamental to support the EU Green Deal's ambitions and transform Europe into the first climate neutral economy. So the CSRD introduces more detailed reporting requirements, bringing approximately 43,000 almost companies that will have to comply with the new rules. Companies will have to disclose sustainability information in their management report according to mandatory European sustainability reporting standards, and file it in a digital machine readable format. So also CSRD requires companies to obtain limited assurance over sustainability reporting, and EU member states had until 6th of July this year to transpose the directive. Now, can we move to the next slide? So just a quick recap of the key requirements. So the CSRD adopted a phased-in approach. So the first companies in scope, large public interest entities with 500 plus employees, or companies that have been already within the non-financial reporting directive scope, will have to report already next year, so in 2025, and the preparations are in full swing for the first cycle of reporting under ESRS as we speak. And the following year, other large companies will come in. Also, listed SMEs will have to comply with CSRD reporting rules as from 2026. Listed SMEs, we have an option to opt out if we actually explain the reason why we cannot be reporting as from 2026 in their management report. And last but not least, we will also have non-EU companies with branches or subsidiaries in the EU reporting as from 2028 for financial year of 2028 in 2029. Can we please go to the next slide? So we have a first set of the European Sustainability Reporting Standards effective since 1st of January 2024. and while this is the set that companies will have to use to prepare their reporting. So while VSRS introduced a new reporting framework and may include many new concepts which stakeholders may find challenging. If we can go to the next slide. CSRD also introduces a new wide requirement for limited assurance on sustainability reporting, and for the first time ever. Until the CSRD came into force, only 3 EU member states had mandatory sustainability assurance requirements. So it was France, Italy, and Spain. Also, CSRD foresees a possibility to move to reasonable assurance after assessing whether this transition is feasible for assurance providers and companies. So also, the CSRD requires the statutory auditor to provide limited assurance over sustainability reporting, and member states may opt for another auditor, other auditor than financial statements auditor or independent assurance service provider to also express an opinion on sustainability reporting. CSRD also addresses EU assurance standard. So the CSRD requires the adoption of a limited assurance standard by 1st of October 2026 at the latest to clarify what is expected from assurance practitioners when carrying out a sustainability assurance engagement. Until the adoption, until that adoption, there will be a gap year, and during that time, member states may actually use national standards, assurance standards, national guidance, or requirements to support sustainability assurance practitioners. And also, it's important to note that by 1st October 2028, the European Commission shall adopt assurance standards for reasonable assurance engagements, and that should happen following an assessment to determine whether or not this transition is feasible. In the meantime, COB adopted non-binding guidelines for limited assurance engagements to facilitate the harmonization of sustainability assurance practice across member states. Could we please move to the next slide? So it is also necessary to equip the entire accountancy profession, but also our sustainability assurance providers with the knowledge and skills necessary to drive a sustainability agenda forward. So the CSRD states that the statutory auditors should meet specific requirements to be allowed to carry out sustainability assurance engagements. And the statutory auditor should obtain specific knowledge. So, for instance, on the subjects such as legal requirements and reporting standards, sustainability analysis, sustainability due diligence processes, and so on. So the CSRD also foresees transitional arrangements for those statutory auditors that have been qualified before 1st of January 2024 or who intend to complete the accreditation before 1st of January 2026. And in that case, member states must ensure that the necessary knowledge is acquired via so-called continuing education. And in case member states have taken the option to authorize independent assurance service providers, we should also set out equivalent requirements as regards training and examination and continuing education. Accountancy Europe members, so professional accountancy organizations across Europe, have been busy in the last couple of years designing training programs, and I'm sure that our speakers will talk more about this in a minute. May we move to another slide, please? So while CSRD aims to strengthen the requirements, it also provides still some flexibility to member states when transposing the directive. So we have here listed 14 of them. I do not intend to go through every single one of them. It's just to illustrate that there might be still differences once the directive has been transposed. And just perhaps to mention a few of these options that might be of interest. So, for instance, member states may permit to exclude commercially sensitive information from sustainability reporting. I already mentioned a few other options, such as that member states may allow statutory auditor and other one financial statements auditor or independent assurance service provider to express opinion on sustainability reporting. There is also an option to apply national assurance standards and so on. So, well, for this reason, to have a better overview and to have full overview of the CSRD transposition in member states, we at Accountancy Europe started collecting information through our members. So, of course, we'll look into many different matters, but today I would like to share with you insights on the status of a transposition and also on sustainability assurance related member state options. Could we please go to another slide? Next one. So, based on the information we received from our members, we see that so far there are 14 countries, that have transposed the directive. So our sample is 29 countries from European Economic Area. So from the countries that transposed, we know that France and Finland were the first adopters. So these two countries transposed the directive still last year. Then 3 other countries followed: Hungary, Czech Republic, and Romania. And Czech Republic and Romania have taken a phased-in approach to the CSRD transposition. And Petra will tell us more how this has been addressed in Czech Republic. Could we please move to another slide? We have also recently seen the news that the European Commission decided to open infringement procedures by sending a letter of formal notices to 17 member states. And you see those 17 member states listed on the slide. So the reason being that these member states have not communicated full transposition into national law. And as already mentioned, that the deadline was 6th of July of this year. So that is the reason why the Commission decided to send letters of formal notice. So member states now have 2 months to respond and complete their transposition. And then in the absence of a satisfactory response, the Commission may decide to take further action. Here, interestingly, like you also see Finland on the list. Well, actually, Finland did transpose, was one of the first adopters of the CSRD. So as far as we have been informed that this was related to Article 48, which was not implemented yet at the time. However, this article has been incorporated. And the Finland should be able to communicate full transposition to Commission in the next month or so. Could we move to the next slide? So let's see how member states are approaching options linked to sustainability information, sustainability assurance. So as already mentioned, CSRD sets out several options when it comes to the provision of sustainability assurance. Now, out of all the member states that have transposed the directive, so far we see that France, Lithuania, and Romania picked up these options. As far as we have been informed, that Denmark is currently considering also allowing a broader range of assurance service providers. So there's apparently law proposal on the table, and should be implemented in the next couple of months. Other countries, some of the other countries indicated that we will be looking into possibility to allow a broader range of assurance providers in the next couple of years. So we have this indication from Ireland, Italy, Norway and Croatia so far. Of course, I should also stress that, the situation is evolving. Not every country has transposed the directive yet, so we still need to wait and see how the final overview will look like. And could we move to the next slide, and which will be my last slide. So I think as representatives of accountancy profession, obviously we also follow what's happening regarding the developments on the national assurance standards or guidelines. So it's interesting to note here that more and more member states see the need to find national solutions, or to find national to provide national guidance to support sustainability assurance providers in the upcoming assurance engagements. Of course, this is once again a continuously developing matter. But so far we know that France was one of the first countries to develop CSRD specific guidelines, and I do believe they just issued a second edition, and Anne I'm sure that she will talk more about this. Finland also has a national assurance guidance. Sweden published national recommendations based on the existing international standards, so-called ISO 3000, and also aligned with the French guidance. And we also get indications that other countries are currently considering developing some guidance, so for instance, Denmark or Norway. And now actually I would like to turn to our speakers to dig a little bit more deeper into the CSRD transposition in France, Lithuania, Czech Republic, and Sweden. So I would like to ask Anne Lenglet to take the floor and to tell us more about how the CSRD transposition has been taken up in France. And well, before you start, could you also please briefly introduce yourself? Thank you. Anne, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. So I'm Anne Lenglet. I'm partner at PwC France, and I'm also the technical leader for sustainability reporting, so for PwC France. So regarding the transposition, we can go to next slide now. So I will try to be short. The transposition deadline, as you said, for the CSRD expired on July, and France has transposed the CSRD in December 2023. So two texts in terms of transposition in France, it was an ordinance and then a decree. So it has technical words, but the CSRD was really transposed in December 2023. We can go to next slide. As you know, the CSRD provides options for this transposition. So what are the main French specificities? That is exactly what we will detail after, but we will go through different thematics. So first, new legal entities and specific threshold. Then the French laws which are impacted by the CSRD. Then we will talk about the content and the possibility of omitting certain information, the possibility also to delegate the new mission of the audit committee, and then about the specific rules for the audit and about specific French sanctions. So we can go to next slide. Let's begin with the scope. We have about, I think, 8,000 companies in France in the scope of the CSRD. We have new legal entities which will have to establish and publish the sustainability report. Of course, in France, we already have at the NFRD, which was transposed, which it was called the DPEF. I will talk about that later. So indeed, this CSRD, it will now include all companies in commercial form, including what we call, for example, SAS, Société par Action Simplifiée. So this is one of the most common form, as a lot of companies are incorporated under this form of SAS. And it is now included where it was not before in the French transposition of the NFRD, as well as all credit institution and insurance company, regardless of their legal form, and therefore not necessarily constituted as a commercial company. So French law include also other specific French entities, such as what we call cooperative companies. That's what I can say about the scope. Now, the application date, there is really no change versus the CSRD. We have a wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, exactly as for CSRD. I will not detail. We can go to next slide. Regarding the specific threshold for large group, 2 messages maybe. First, we have this threshold, 30 million euro balance sheet, 70 million euro turnover, and the employees. Why? Because this threshold, they have to be assessed before eliminating intra-group operation. This is a little bit the same as to calculate threshold for consolidated accounts. Please also note that the definition of a French large group includes the parent company and the companies under exclusive and under joint control. That's in the laws. And we can go to next slide. In France, there is a big challenge regarding the rationalization and the coherence of all existing regulation. We have called that in the slide about a regulatory millefeuille. This just means there are multiple laws regarding sustainability reporting. So before, as I said, we had this DPEF, Déclaration de performance extra-financière, which was just the French NFRD text. And we also, for example, already have a due diligence law with a reporting obligation since 2017. This is called Devoir de Vigilance Law. And as I said, this requires a specific reporting as of today, but it will be rationalized with CSRD and CSDDD. As an example, also, we have another law regarding reporting on GHG emissions, which is called BGS. And this is just example to show the big challenge around coherence, rationalization between the multiple existing texts. We can go to next slide. I will be short. So in accordance with the option for the member states, French transposition allows omission with the very specific and exceptional cases when information is relating to matters in the course of negotiation. But this is, as I said, under very exceptional conditions that are mentioned on the slide. We can go to next slide. I would like to talk about the new responsibilities of the audit committee. So France has exercised the option proposed by the CSRD. The board of directors, they have the possibility to delegate the new mission of the audit committee to a dedicated committee. We can go to next slide. Now, regarding the certification of the sustainability information, so it can be carried out by the auditors, which certify the company accounts. They can also be certified by another auditor or independent provider of assurance services, for example, lawyers or chartered accountants. So in France, this independent third-party body, OTI, is now the term used to qualify independent provider of assurance services. And the OTI will be subject to the same requirement as the statutory auditor in terms of training, independence, inspections by the French authority, which is the French regulatory authority of the profession of auditor, which is called H2A. I will talk about it again later. So we can go to next slide. To carry out the mission of certification, the auditor is appointed for a mandate of 6 financial years. So there are transitional provisions which have been introduced for the first nomination. So either for the remaining duration of the financial audit mandate, or for a mandate of 3 years and 6 years, or 3 years when. And then for the remaining duration of the financial audit mandate. What is the objective? In fact, this is to align the mandate of both financial and sustainability reporting. Now, regarding one quick word on the consultation of the CSE. What does it mean, CSE? This is a social and economic committee. We can go to next slide. Yes, sorry. Before talking about the CSE, one word about the national guidance standard for assurance. So given the absence of a European standard for limited assurance and sustainability reporting, the French authority, so which is called H2A, as I said, for all practitioners, they were on the view that guidelines were needed. And these guidelines in the second version were published on the 2nd of October. So we have included the link on the slide regarding those guidelines, and they are quite long and talking about the engagement letter, getting to know the entity and its environment, planning the work to be carried out, etc., etc. So it is quite complete, but I will not detail more here. We can go to next slide. Yes. So now regarding the training at. So there is a training requirement for sure, and there is first a transitional regime. So first of all, France requires the completion of 90 hours of specific training in sustainability. And this training has been approved by the French authority. So at PwC France, for example, of the statutory auditor partners of the audit activity are now authorized by the French authority to certify sustainability information following this 90 hours of training. And then after, there is a permanent regime, as you know, which requires the completion of a training period of 8 months, etc., etc. So we can go to next slide. Yes, coming back to CSE, as I mentioned before, just one quick word. Companies must consult their CSE, which is the Social and Economic Committee of the companies. So this obligation is not mentioned in the CSRD. It is another transposition decided by France, and the auditor must verify compliance with this obligation of consulting this CSE. And we can go to next slide. Yes, so now about the sanctions. So the French transposition provides specific civil and criminal sanctions. So for example, and I will only give some example regarding specific civil sanctions, the French transposition has also provided the possibility of excluding from public procurement procedure and concession contract companies that have not fulfilled obligation of sustainability reporting. And one other example for the criminal sanction, notably in case of absence of appointment of auditors, this is classic, or in case of obstruction regarding the verification. Yes, so that's what I can say about the French transposition. I hope I was not too long.
Thank you, Anne, for the presentation. This is very interesting. So if you agree, I would like to take a few questions. Well, first of all, as you also, I think, said it yourself, at France already, there is practice in France, of course, and because of NFRD and so on, of course, now the context has changed with the new rules. So in your view, what is the biggest challenge for the CSRD implementation in France?
So I will mention maybe one or two challenges. So as I said earlier, there is a big challenge in France for the transposition because of this need of rationalization of the multitude of existing regulatory layers. So I will not detail more about that, but that is one. And now a challenge, which is more a challenge of implementation for companies. We had a conference at PwC 1 week ago, which was really dedicated to wave 2 companies. So mid-sized companies, and I would like to share the challenge of these companies because they have to deal with a lot of difficulties, and it was what they shared during this webcast. So first of all, sometimes they do not have any sustainability strategy, but they need to do the reporting about the CSRD, the ESRS with the 12 standard, including double materiality assessment, plus a gap analysis, plus also they have never assessed, for example, for some of them, GHG assessment. So they need to do this GHG assessment. At the same time, they need to do taxonomy. They need to start to think about the tools for the reporting. So they are not used to collect the data. So I will stop there, but I think that's a very big challenge for these Wave 2 companies in terms of implementation to do everything at the same time.
Thank you, Anne. And indeed, it sounds like a really complicated manner. So companies will need a lot of support. In the interest of time, I would then suggest to move to our second speaker, Vaida Kačergienė, who is president at Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors. So Vaida, please tell us more about the Lithuanian transposition.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. I am Vaida Kačergienė, the president of Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors, and will shortly present what is the situation in Lithuania right now. If we can go to next slide. So I will try not to repeat what was already told, because speakers before told a lot of basic things that are common to all over Europe. And to see so Lithuania followed France example. Yes, and actually our legislation is in full set already from 1st of July of this year. We were waiting a little bit to see how France will be successful in this. Yes, there is not only this one law which is affected, there are some more, but mainly it is there are affected company reporting law and our securities law, state and state companies law, and administrative laws. But these are the main that are affected. And regarding assurance of sustainability reporting, the law is everything is set in financial statement and other assurance service law. So if we can go to next slide. Yes, thank you very much. So in general, I will shortly tell a little bit more than just in the slides. So first of all, Lithuania will not issue any own national standards. We are going to use EU standards on sustainability reporting, and for assurance, we are going to use the ISO 3000 at the moment, and then of course we will follow all other international standards. That is easier actually to set all the situation and to follow all requirements for everybody. Regarding companies, it's very, very common and similar to what already was presented by Anne, that in the first year, an obligation to report on sustainability is for large companies that are listed companies, also for central credit union and banks, also security companies, insurance companies that are very large, have more than 500 employees, and also on consolidated basis, if group companies as well, and 25 million in assets and 50 million in turnover. And from 2026, it will be exactly same, only it will be lowered down to those companies that have more than 250 employees. And if to talk a little bit about reporting, I see already some questions coming, so I will try a little bit to answer them. In Lithuania, it is set so that if a company is a group in multinational company or a part or a component of multinational company, it is not required to disclose all full sustainability information in the management report if it is reported on the group level. The only thing is that this should have to be mentioned in the management report, and it should be publicly available information in at least one of official EU languages. So let's say if we're talking about some third countries, like let's say like Norway, because in Lithuania we have quite a lot of companies that are components of Norwegian companies. So let's say if Norway will report sustainability there, so then, and it will be full assurance reporting, so then it will not be needed for the component to in Lithuania to to provide this report, but to provide full information where it could be found. So that's how it is decided in Lithuania. And yes, Lithuania decided to allow other independent assurance service providers to come into the market. And just you can see it in different color to make it easier to understand. The main who is responsible for all these specialists is Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors. This is a mandatory association, and this is the only association which will take care of all specialists as private persons. If a person would like to become an independent assurance service provider on sustainability reporting, then it is obligatory, mandatory to become an associate member. And from 1st of January of 2025, we are going already to give possibility for trainings and for practice certification and exams for other service providers. For all our members that are presently members and will become auditors until 31st of December of 2025, it is grandfathering agreed, and it's just enough 20 hours of qualification courses. It's much less than in France, but we do expect that our members will continue training. This is only basic certification, and we understand that we need much more knowledge to become good specialists. But in spite of this, in Lithuania, we really do have very good specialists already right now. So these courses, first courses for grandfathering, are organized by Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors, and only nobody else can do this. And the program is officially legally confirmed by our POB, Public Oversight Body, and it is a legal document that you could find in among our legal legislation in Lithuania. And all our members who will not be able to participate in these courses until the end of 2025, from 1st of January 2026, it will be just new requirement, 8 months of the practice and exam that will be organized by Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors. Then when maybe we can go to next slide. Thank you. This is like a very short disclosure of how our courses consist, what of teams our courses consist. And as you can see shortly, so mostly the biggest time is used for sustainability reporting standards and for assurance process. Actually, all the rest is just about legislation. Also, some part of the courses is for how companies should prepare our firms that will have to report, how they should prepare, what we should find in those companies. So talking about challenges, yes, we do now have challenge, because companies that should be preparing sustainability report, they still don't know what auditors will ask for. So they are actually challenging us, auditors as well, and asking to share some information. We need to connect a little bit how they need to prepare. So this is, we expect that for first 2-3 years, it will be a challenge still until the market will come into some proportional and balanced understanding. If to say about what is the practice of our big firms that are already trying to prepare sustainability report, even though it was not a required assurance, and are trying taxonomy, like how it will work. So even big firms in Lithuania, not audit firms, but big firms, big companies that will be obliged already to report in 2025 for 2024, they try to look at taxonomy requirements and see that to meet all requirements is a very big challenge. They can cover like 45%, 40% of taxonomy requirements, not more. So actually we expect that first year's reports, assurance report, will be qualified, modified reports. We do not expect them to have, clean reports. Otherwise, it might be a question if it is really true report. That's if it's really good report, because our specialists, as they are going and consultants and they are working with the companies, they do see that companies meet challenges. And one of the tendencies that we can see in Lithuania, it's we can't say that it's like greenwashing, but yes, companies they like to say that they are very green and they are very sustainable and so on. But looking from the perspective of requirements, if company says that company is very green or sustainable, it is not true. It's not true. Like 40% is possible to cover for big companies that are implementing these requirements already for many years, or some years at least. So that's really challenging issue. Then if we go to next slide. Thank you very much. I think it's important to understand what we can expect in Lithuania, who will be able to provide the service, especially if we have some multinational companies and international cooperation. So assurance service providers might be audit firms or non-audit firms. But what is very much important is to check very carefully if somebody will receive assurance report provided by somebody from Lithuania. So please do check in Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors. There will be full list who is really allowed to provide this service and who is by person, name and surname, who is in person is certified to do this, because it's really very important. So audit firms are registered by Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors and under supervision, and non-audit firms. We have some interesting situation in Lithuania. It was decided that non-audit firms, like these independent assurance service providers, will be certified by our national accreditation office. So it's how to say, users of the service should be very careful by choosing who is the right specialist. So if we can go to next slide. Yes, the quality assurance, I think it's really also important to understand if any questions about compliance, non-compliance or whatever, where you should go and whom you should ask if it is okay or not okay with the assurance report. So system of quality management, it is all service providers should implement a system of quality management. For audit firms, is mandatory ISQM. So it's very clear. We do not have any additional standards in Lithuania, as already mentioned before. For non-audit firms, requirements should be set by our national accreditation office. And audit firms in Lithuania are split into two parts. Again, to know, it's public interest entities, audit and assurance. They are supervised by our public oversight body, and non-public interest entities, audit and assurance, including also sustainability as well, are supervised by Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors. So just to know where's our head offices and who is taking care of a quality assurance. And if we go to next slide, I want to leave some time for others. Yes, so we have a little bit another situation for assurance reporting. If for companies, as you say, that entities will be taken care by National Accreditation Service. So service providers will be, for assurance reporting, will be supervised by our public oversight body or by Chamber of Auditors. It depends if it is public interest entity or not. So to find more detailed information, what are public interest companies or not, it is quite easy in the law that I mentioned in my first slide. It is law on audit and other assurance service. There are all detailed information which companies are listed or public interest and which companies are just large companies, and but still audit is required. Regarding assurance reporting, companies that are not under a mandatory list to provide assurance report, they might do this voluntary and they might ask for assurance of sustainability report or not. So again, you should be, if reading any Lithuanian company's sustainability report, so please do be careful and check if the company is under mandatory requirements or not, if the assurance report had to be provided or not. That's again, I think it's very important using these reports for further needs. One more exemption: company is not required provide sustainability information in management reports, if they are reporting on digital format. But this information should be provided in the management report as well, that this digital format should be, and the link where this digital format should be found publicly available. So that's also important information. And if we go to the next slide, I'm almost at the end. Yes, when we are talking about some challenges on sustainability practice and exam. So first of all, the challenge is to determine what is the starting date, because we have other independent assurance service providers allowed to be in the market. So we are still in process to determine, but we have quite a lot of interests and persons, good consultants who would like to become these specialists. And talking about challenges, yes, we do have challenge here to how market will be shared. It is a little bit some fear that the market might be shared by big audit firms at the first stage very quickly, and then it will be more difficult to enter some other specialists into the market. But our finance ministry promised to take care of this, and in 3 years after the implementation, they need to evaluate the market concentration as well. So that's important thing. And we have, of course, we do have a challenge to set criteria to evaluate a qualification of practice passed for others than auditors, because actually in directive there are no big points set for this, how practice should be understood. So here we have some challenges. Maybe other countries will maybe we will discuss with France afterwards shortly, or some other countries as well. But now we are trying to set some criteria, and whenever it will be already set, so it will be publicly available. Yes, and regarding continuous trainings, if we get to my last slide. So for auditors, there are no mandatory hours set. It is just included in 120 hours of 3 years continuous training. At least some hours should be from sustainability, and for others, it is 16 hours per year mandatory training and continuous training, and Lithuanian Chamber of Auditors will take care of this. So I think that's all. I don't want to take any more time, because I maybe added something more from previous speakers. Yes, and if there are some questions.
Thank you, Vaida, so much for your detailed presentation. That's very interesting, the approach that Lithuania took. There are a few questions, however, in the interest of time, I would like to immediately go to Petra. And if we still have a little bit of time left at the end of the webinar, Vaida, then I will come back to you with a few questions that I see our participants are sending. So Petra, I would like to turn to you now. You are director at PwC, but also you are chairperson of a Jirková subcommittee at the Chamber of Auditors of the Czech Republic. So could you please tell us more about your transposition in Czech Republic?
Thank you, Vita, and good afternoon to everyone. Can we go, please, for the next slide, because I don't need to introduce myself more than you just did. So the Czech Republic, I took an easy approach to transpose the CSRD directive and effectively transpose it fully as it is, with no additional additions, I'd say, or no additional extensions. A brief overview on the reporting timeline, which is in line with the CSRD directive, and the expected number of entities. Currently, it's it's around 2,000 entities that we expect to be in scope. However, there are no market data, unfortunately, not even available for the regulators. So it's just a rough estimate based on the market research that we did. But we do expect that number to be much lower because of the consolidation exemption. As in the Czech Republic, a lot of the entities actually do have parent entities within the EU, which are going the direction of creating and filing one consolidated CSRD report. Similarly to what my colleague said, if the entities want to use the consolidation exemption, they have to actually state this fact in their management report, and they have to include a link to the existing consolidated CSRD report, and they have to be included in that report as the entity. So the disclosures of that particular entity using the exemption is to be part of that consolidated sustainability report, and that report has to be filed in the Czech Republic along with the statutory documents, either in the Czech or English language for the time being. We can go to the next slide, please. So the regulatory body responsible for the transposition is the Ministry of Finance. As mentioned by Vita, the transposition is actually being done in two waves. The first wave, which is relevant for the first reporters on the 2024 data, has been transposed on time in line with the requirements imposed by the EU. The second wave is currently going through the legislation, and it's expected to be transposed before the year end. And this is the reason why Czech Republic was actually included on that shame list, I call it, of the 17 countries that have not yet fully transposed the directive. There are penalties included in the Czech legislation if the entities do not prepare and publish the sustainability report as required by the CSRD directive, and these are effectively the same as for not preparing and filing the statutory financial statements, and can be up to 3% of the total value of assets. And there are also penalties imposed if the sustainability statements are incorrect, let's put it this way, without any additional guidance on how this is going to be assessed. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So if we talk about the options chosen in the Czech Republic, I think I should briefly mention that there are actually legal form of the corporations that are in scope of the CSRD reporting, and these are included in the directive itself and have not been extended. These are the standard corporations, including joint stock companies or limited liability companies. The public sector entities, let's put it this way, is actually excluded from the scope of the CSRD reporting. With regards to the opportunity or option not to report certain data or information that might be considered as secret, the Czech Republic effectively applied the option provided by CSRD and did not go beyond that. And similar to what my colleague said, this would be expected only in very rare circumstances. And the biggest fear is that this is going to be misinterpreted and abused by the organizations when they decide not to disclose certain required information. The Czech Republic decided not to go the route of allowing an independent assurance provider on the Czech market. The entities have a choice between their current statutory auditor or another licensed auditor for the sustainability assurance engagements. And the general view is that the statutory auditor is best placed to perform the assurance, subject to complying with the additional upskilling requirements and extending the standard license to the ESG amendment, just because of the depth of knowledge of that entity and the ability to oversee the consistency of the information in the financial statements and the sustainability statement, because these two documents within one annual report are interconnected to a certain extent, and consistency is an important aspect of the sustainability assurance as well as the financial statements audit. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So to follow up on what just colleagues mentioned, so in the Czech Republic, there is a two-tier approach to upskilling. The first tier relates to the existing auditors, licensed auditors who are required to upskill themselves to be able to extend the license for ESG, and the requirement is 40 hours as part of their CPD requirements within a 2-year period. They have to complete this upskilling by the 31st of December 2025. And they don't have to do additional exam. And with regards to the practical experience, this is not mandated for the existing auditors. With regards to the new auditors that will become licensed auditors after the 1st January 2026, for these auditors, there is a new exam, part of the standard audit curriculum that will be dedicated to ESG, which is currently being prepared by the Chamber of Auditors together with the pre-course, so that the auditors to become have enough resources to upskill themselves. And for the new auditors after the 1st of January, clearly they have to comply with these 8-month practical experience from the sustainability engagements, let's put it this way, so that they have also practical experience with how to proceed with these engagements. We don't have a specific issuance standard in the Czech Republic. Currently, for the existing engagements will apply ISA 3000. Later, once ISA becomes effective, ISA 5000, sorry, will become effective. This will be a relevant standard for the sustainability reporting, unless EC adopts an EU level assurance standard, whatever that might be. We're still currently discussing how the assurance report will look like, and there are 2 options that you can imagine. One combined report for, if the auditor is the same, for the audit opinion on the financial statements and the assurance conclusion for the sustainability report, or 2 separate reports, one each part of the annual report, which will be more relevant for 2 auditors, but the conclusion has not been reached yet what's going to be the preferred option. If we go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So with regards to the governance structure in the clients, with regards to the sustainability reporting, the governance structure and the responsibilities of those charged with governance are the same as for the financial statement. So the board of directors or statutory body is ultimately responsible for the preparation of the sustainability report, and then the oversight bodies, whether it is a supervisory body or any other oversight body, including the audit committee, are responsible for the oversight over the process, audit committee even more of for the oversight over the assurance process on the sustainability report. And with regards to the oversight from the audit regulation and any sanctions, this is the same as for the financial audit. And in the Czech Republic, similar to Lithuania, we have 2 regulators, one for the public interest entities that will be looking at the first reporters primarily, because these are EU PIs, and then the Czech Chamber of Auditors, which is responsible for the oversight over the non-public interest entities, financial, and also EFT reporting. We can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. And that was my last slide, so happy to take any questions if we have time for that or later.
Thank you, Petra, so much. That's also very interesting to hear about the transposition in Czech Republic, even if, as you said, you took a simple approach in Czech Republic, but still there, as we can see, there are different differences. So perhaps let's just go immediately to our last speaker, Sara, and hopefully we'll have a bit more time left at the end to take a few questions. So Sara, please, could you tell us more about the transposition in Sweden?
Yes, I can. Hello. I am an authorized accountant, as you can see, from the Swedish professional accountancy organization FAR. So we can go to the first slide. Well, the companies in scope and the application time of the CSRD in Sweden. well, as the same as Petra said, in the Czech Republic, we do not know exactly how many companies that are in scope, but approximately 1,600 to 2,000 large companies, and that comes from the analysis in the government inquiry before implementing the directive. But since the thresholds were adjusted by 25% in the accounting directive, there's probably less than 1,600 or 2,000. And then approximately 100 listed SMEs and 140 financial institutions. And then also there's a smaller number of subsidiaries and branches. And as you can see on this picture, Sweden has, well, we did finish the transposition process on time, and we did report this to the Commission. But in Sweden, we chose to delay the time of application by 6 months. And this delay actually triggered the EU to start an infringement procedure against Sweden as well. And the Swedish Ministry of Justice did respond to this on September 24th. And in general, Sweden is against retroactive application of legislation. And we did see that this would cause some legal uncertainties and also difficulties for the companies that need more time to prepare and collect information for the reporting. So, of course, there will be some companies that have not a calendar year that will report for 2024, but most of the companies will fall into the reporting requirements from the 1st of January 2025, and then the timeline is aligned with the directive for the rest of the companies. So if we take the next slide, there are a number of laws and regulation impacted by the CSRD, but these are the main laws. And of course, there are the Annual Accounts Act, including the Annual Accounts Acts for credit institutions and securities companies and insurance companies. And also the Swedish Companies Act, which includes the Savings Banks Act and the Act on Banking and Finance Operations, etc. And the Auditing Act and Auditors Act, and also the regulations that are regulating the requirements for auditors. And when Sweden transposed the NFRD, we did gold plate that. So there were more kinds of companies that fell into those requirements. But this time, these entities will fall out from the requirements. So, for instance, economic associations and Swedish foundations do not have to report on CSRD. However, they can voluntarily follow the legal requirements so that subsidiaries can be included in the group reporting. So that is a possibility. We can take the next slide. So when it comes to the oversight of the reporting requirements, this follows the regime for financial reporting. So this has not changed. So listed companies fall under the Financial Supervisory Authority. And the non-listed companies are not subject to any special accounting supervision, only the assurance performed by the auditor. We can take the next slide. So when it comes to the educational qualification for statutory auditors and the audit and the practitioners that are allowed to perform the assurance, it is only statutory auditors. So this follows the Czech example. And it could be another auditor than the statutory auditor for the financial statements, but no IASPs. And the rationale for this is that we do not have a regime for IASPs in Sweden. We do not have a body that could certify or supervise those. And also the statutory auditors were seen as the best place to perform the assurance. But also there is a suggestion to actually evaluate this within a couple of years. So we'll have to see how this will evolve. The theoretical knowledge are aligned with the directive, and it could be fulfilled either at university level or at firm level. And the grandfathering rules mean that all authorized auditor on January 1st, 2026 will be approved to perform assurance on sustainability, but they must fulfill the requirements for continuous training in sustainability. And that will amount to an additional 40 hours of training over a 5-year period. And it is within the subjects in the CSRD. And when it comes to the test of theoretical knowledge, there will be a written exam, but there will only be one written examination, and it will be the same for all statutory auditors, including those that will have the certification for assurance of sustainability. The practical training of 8 months could be fulfilled either before the written examination or after, and either in whole or partially. So it's a flexibility in this system. And we can take the next slide. So the assurance standard in Sweden, we did have a guidance or recommendation for assurance on sustainability already before, and that one was based on the ISAE 3000. But we did acknowledge that we needed some more specificity, since there are certain elements in the CSRD that was not covered in the existing recommendation. So in June last year, we published our recommendation, Rev R19, the auditor's review of the statutory sustainability report. And when we were working on this recommendation, we tried to align it with how we believe the EU standard will actually fall out. So it's based on ISAE 3000, the draft ISA 5000, the French recommendation guidance, and now we are also benchmarking it against the CAOB's non-binding guidelines and the EU FAQ.
Great, Sarah. Thank you so much. And well, luckily we still have a few minutes before the foreseen end of this webinar. So I do have a question then for you. So in Sweden, as you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation, that the approach was taken to delay reporting rules application by 1 year. So in your view, what are potential consequences or perhaps opportunities even for Swedish companies?
Well, I guess it's both. Of course, the Swedish companies will get some extra time now to prepare the reporting and maybe take a look at how similar companies in similar sectors will handle some things, what subjects are considered material, and so on. And also the auditors will have some extra time to prepare when it comes to upskilling and also maybe building capacity within the firms. But I do hear that there are many companies actually voluntarily going ahead with the proposed timeline in the CSRD, since they are already had already prepared for it, and also see it as a competitive disadvantage not to report.
Thank you. And what would be then implications for assurance of this delay? And do you hear that companies will also plan to obtain assurance on voluntary basis, or this is not something that is currently on the table?
Yes, it is, because a lot of companies in Sweden already had voluntary assurance, and of course they want this also for the CSRD reports. So it raises some uncertainties, because information in Sweden that's placed in the management report is subject for audit, actually, reasonable assurance. So we still need to look at how will that affect the voluntary assurance if you place the report within the management report in Sweden.
All right, thank you. Very interesting. So I still would like to take perhaps one question, and ladies, I would like to address that question to all of you. So we do know that the CSRD is very fundamental. However, it does come with its complexities, obviously, and it does have cost attached, right? So there is someone asking, like, what's the position of member states on these reporting obligations? So, may I ask you, all of you, to comment on that? So what is the perception of these new rules coming in, especially considering when perhaps sustainability reporting and assurance does not have exactly the same history in each of the countries? So perhaps, Vaida, could we start with you and your thoughts on this?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, in Lithuania, if to say so, it was not calculated, and nobody tried even to estimate what will be costs for implementing. It's just like might be big or very big. So that's the estimation. And we will see how companies will report on this. That's why, first of all, implementation is obligatory for biggest companies. And in general, all the rest will just follow up. So maybe one of the concerns is regarding supply chain, because it is not clear how supply chain, which is supporting multinational and international companies, that we really have a lot in Lithuania that are not components, but they are in the supply chain, how they will deal with this. Because if company is an international company, a component of international company, most probably will expect some support from the mother company. And if it is not just as is in the supply chain, then it will be a challenge. So this challenge was not yet assumed. We are still trying to understand this, actually. So that will be not very clear, but that's the answer for now.
Yes, indeed. I suppose there are more issues or uncertainties coming to the surface as we go ahead. So, Anne, can I actually ask you the same question?
Sure. You hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. I will answer a little bit differently and completing maybe the question, because in the question, what I have heard also is a perception of the companies about the CSRD. So coming back to my conference with mid-sized company 1 week ago, so the cost of the CSRD was of course mentioned, but what was really interesting also was the perspective about, as I said, the difficulties going with the sustainability strategy, the tools, the DMA, the gap analysis, the GHG assessment. But what was really obvious with the companies, and there were companies having no sustainability reporting at all, or one other having already just one NFRD reporting on sustainability. And they both really insisted on the fact that it has helped them to put in place a sustainability strategy, to raise questions about how to address the sustainability impacts. And I take the example, and this is public, this conference, that's why I'm quoting it. But the company without the sustainability reporting, so starting from nothing, they used the double materiality analysis to start their sustainability strategy. So for me, that's quite a message. So I share it.
Great, thank you for this tip. Hopefully that can actually help also some of the participants to start their journey. And Sara, then could I turn to you for the same question?
Well, actually, the Swedish investigation did not actually calculate what would be the cost. They only looked at the FX cost-benefit analysis. So I guess we can also say, yes, the cost will be big, but also, of course, there are upsides with this, as Alan says, for the SMEs, also helping them to actually identify the sustainability risks and opportunities. But we do not have an exact amount or figure on what that cost would be.
Thank you. Well, Petra, I would like to end with you. So what would be the perception of CSRD in the Czech Republic?
I think I can only add that it is a complex area, just because it is very large and demanding on the quality of data. I think that was one of the questions too. And it does require a very thorough assessment. What is actually material to the entity, as I mentioned, so the double materiality assessment is a crucial starting point. I think to your question on the expected cost, this would be different from different entities, and I can see on the market that there are different levels of maturity in this area of field. There are quite a few entities who already collect data, not in a very structured way, I would say, just because there was no need to do that, but because it is required by the suppliers or customers. This new framework will actually help them to benefit from collecting the data and do a more of a PR for themselves on how great they're actually doing in this area. Within the requirements of the CSRD directive, of course. But I think it's without any questions that the cost will be there. They're not going to be small, especially when we think about adding the need to implement or expand on the information system that they're currently using for financial reporting, because this is definitely an area that you don't want to continue reporting in an Excel spreadsheet. And the need to enhance the team for people who are knowledgeable, and to the need to actually build a reporting process with the oversight function over the non-financial reporting to the same extent, depth and quality as the other organizations have for the financial reporting. But similar to what my colleague said, we do not have any calculation on the cost, just because it's going to vary so much. So any estimate that we would put on the table would be very inaccurate.
Thank you. Well, I suppose change requires some investment, and certainly this is an important change that we all have to approach collectively. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. So with that, I would like to thank all of you today for joining to talk about CSRD transposition in your respective countries, and to thank all the participants who were with us today. And of course, CSRD transposition, so the law might be already in force. However, now the real work starts. And I would like just to say that certainly as Accountancy Europe and representatives of the profession, we remain committed to the transformation of this economy. So stay tuned for further work, and we certainly will continue sharing the news on the CSRD transposition. Thank you all for joining. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.